Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the stream. We just wrapped up a great best of three between Purdue and University of Toronto Esports, but we're moving on to yet another round of 16 matchup as we are bringing you Winthrop versus the Highlanders. It's not Wichita. I apologize. Still having PTSD from the series that we lost earlier this week, but looking forward to see some more good collegiate action. And joining us on the desk this time around, pleasure to be joined by Jordan Megaboyzkin-Segas, the president of esports at Florida State University. Megaboyzkin, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. Excited to watch this series. I think it's going to be some good games. Definitely a pretty Winthrop favorite, but excited to see what we have for these series today.
Hey, you say Winthrop favored going in, but we got to play the games for a reason, as I think the result of Series 1 surprised some people. We're going to have to see a Series 2 can follow suit. But hey, taking a look at the bracket, that wasn't the only game that was going on during all of this, Dylan. I know that we have University of Toronto poised to play the winner of University of Western Ontario versus Bethany, but I think there might be a little bit of a surprise at the bottom side of the bracket for all of our viewers.
Yeah, down there in the lower part of the bracket, we see that Buffalo has taken the win over UIUC. You know, Illinois is out. The Fighting Illini are no more in the tournament. Buffalo, set to play the winner of this series, which is going to be really exciting because I think Buffalo is a team that maybe too many people weren't familiar with. They were voted in, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like they're a little bit of a dark horse. I don't think they match up too favorable against Winthrop, but if the Highlanders pull off an upset here, I think, it's going to be a very exciting round of 8 to see who moves on.
Yeah, well, Buffalo, a team that we're very familiar with, as one of the reasons that the two of us are on the broadcast and not playing in the round of 32. Sometimes you just got to take the L there. So, but that said, not the only games going on, as we also have a simultaneous stream going on for Upsurge Esports. Good series over there as well. But I actually want to dive into the one that we have ahead of us, where we have Winthrop versus the Highlanders. Of course, ISU versus Michigan State, a little bit of a rivalry over on Upsurge. I think that is something that might be closely contested. Well, I think ISU is very heavily favored. Megaboy's kind of curious if you have any opinions there on that series.
Over ISU Michigan State, definitely think it's pretty ISU favored, but RBM Michigan State always gonna throw them for a loop, so I have to see what happens with that one.
Yeah, RBM, of course, the jungler for Zeus Gaming throughout Proving Grounds as well. And speaking of Proving Grounds, Winthrop, a team that, if you were following the tournaments to qualify for Proving Grounds, a collegiate team that you might be very familiar with, as they were the best performing collegiate team in that amateur event qualifications leading up. They nearly made it to the top 16. Unfortunately, they fell a little bit short in the end, but a team that's tried, true, and proven, featuring Saskio, who has 2 C-Law championships under his belt at 2 different roles on Maryville, and definitely going to be a challenge for the Highlanders today, who got here off of what many people saw as an upset against GVU. But Megaboyzkin, I know that you've been especially looking up, doing all your research on this team, and kind of curious on your general thoughts about how they were able to get here and then how they might be able to advance into the round of 8 in this best of 3.
Yeah, so for the Highlanders in that last series, they were definitely the underdogs in that matchup, even falling behind in their lanes in multiple games. But they had some really good early to mid-game skirmishing and just punished Grandview at every single step. Especially, we saw Damloss coming in huge in a lot of the fights there, as well as Asian Knights, as well as Gohan Top. Just really this kind of core of their top side, just doing very well in these early to mid-game fights. That really allowed them to get leads and to eventually take that upset win 2-1 over Grandview.
Yeah, a team
I expect to see pretty similar stuff in this series as well.
Yeah. We're gonna have to see it, Dylan. I'm kind of curious. I know you caught the series as well. A lot of what Megaboyzkin is saying. Were you surprised the result too?
Yeah, it feels like GVU's a little bit more of a storied team. I'd say, solo queue-wise, the players are pretty evenly matched, but I don't know. It feels a little bit weird to have a top 32, or a top 16, excuse me, without GVU in it. They've been, kind of a staple of Collegiate League of Legends. Sure, they've never been, number 1, but they've always had very solid players. They've always had, a very solid supporting staff. They're obviously, a varsity-sponsored program. So it's very surprising to me that the Highlanders had such a dominant series against them. Sure, it was 2-1, but it was a convincing win from the Highlanders. They didn't really, falter too much during the series. They lost one game, but they bounced right back, and they ended up taking the whole series. So I'm excited to see how they play against definitely a better team in Winthrop.
Yeah, and I know that as you heard, if you caught the pregame interview that Mazel did with Damloss, the jungler for the Highlanders, he definitely said that, he could feel the fact that he was an underdog, and they played with a chip on their shoulder trying to prove to the chat and the viewers they deserve to be here, and hey, you can't argue with the results. They definitely deserve their spot, but going up against what you say, what many would agree with, a harder, more difficult opponent in Winthrop. And Dylan, I know that you're very familiar with this squad and all the work that you did in Proving Grounds as well. What do you have to say about the Eagles coming into this one?
Winthrop is just one of the best collegiate teams that there is. I mean, it's amazing considering the fact that it just kind of feels like a group of friends that are just all playing League of Legends together, and they all happen to be super good, but they're so coordinated. They're so precise in their gameplay. They have such like dynamic champion pools. They have such dynamic gameplay. They are so seasoned in how they play, and it feels really tough for other collegiate programs to compete against it because every player top to bottom on this Winthrop team is a very solid player. There's no real weak points in the roster. It's hard to really point out, a place where you could, exploit attack if you're the enemy team. Typically in collegiate, you're able to at least point out one or two roles where you have the advantage. But against Winthrop, they're just so they're so well-rounded that it's impossible to create a strategy against them. You basically just have to go into it hoping that either Winthrop's going to underperform or that your team is going to overperform or have some strategy that's going to pair well into them.
Yeah, I think in this particular matchup, the only place where there might be some possibility for the Highlanders to get a bit of advantage is that Hybrids typically plays the more defensive picks for this team, like the Shen, the Gragas, these more defensive picks, while Gohan Top has been a player that's very focused on the counterpick champions like the Aatrox and other champions like that. They're great counterpicks. So I think if they can get a good counterpick for Gohan and have Damloss play through that top lane, I think that they can potentially get some leads there for Gohan. And if he's on enough of a hard carry champion, he could potentially take over the game for the side of the Highlanders to potentially get an upset here.
Love that insight coming out from our guest. And yeah, Gohan definitely a great member of a supporting cast around Damloss that helped the Highlanders make it into the round of 16. And also, I know that you being a president of esports at Florida State in the South, very familiar with Winthrop. For you, what's it like as well having these guys be a part of your conference, a team that you would have to get through to make it to the round of 32?
Yeah, they're definitely a big influence in the South. We actually got to play against them last year in our run through CLO. But one thing that's very interesting about Winthrop is that they are a team that is upsettable. They've been upset both years in a row, back-to-back, in the regular season in the South. Last year by LSU, this year by Houston. So even though Winthrop is a very powerful, dominant team, they have shown that they are beatable and they are upsettable a lot of the time through these more mid-game type skirmishes. While their lanes are very powerful across the board, they can sometimes have these slip-ups in the mid-game fights, which is where we saw the Highlanders excel last week. So I think that we could potentially see some of that type of action this time as well.
All right. Well, I know that we have about 90 seconds before we dive into the draft of this game one, so I do want to put you both on the spot, get your thoughts. I'm going to start off with Dylan. Dylan, who do you think is going to be taking this series? What's the game score and why?
Oh, man. I was wrong last time with Purdue. No way I'm wrong twice in a row. I'm going to go Winthrop 2-0. I'm going to go two pretty dominant games. I expect it to be an early night for these boys.
All right, Mega Boyskin?
I'm going to go 2-1 for Winthrop. I think that Damloss, with the magic he showed last week, if he can bring that back again this week, can eke out a win for them. But I do think that Winthrop's just their solo laners across the board, I think will just give them enough of advantage that it's going to be a bit too difficult for Highlander to claw back the way they did last week.
Yeah, I know that Winthrop coming into this event, sitting down with them, if you also missed the bit they were running beforehand with the... Man, I mean, what a way to build up some synergy, right? And having some content where you have to guess, who's who for the questions and seeing if they're all aligned. We're going to have to see if they are fully aligned in this one. I know that the draft is something that's going to be very critical as well. Mega Boyskin, you were pointing out towards Gohan's counter picks. Is there anything in particular that we might have to look out for in these champion pools diving into this game one?
Yeah, so I think for Gohan, we saw last week the Urgot was a really big pick for him. This is a champion that is very good as a counter pick champion. He's got scaling, he's tanky, there's a lot of good damage in the late game, and if he can get a good matchup can get on to the end and be a good carry for him as well. So that's what I'm kind of seeing those kind of champions like Aatrox, like Urgot for Gohan to be able to get a good kind of pick they can carry with.
All right, we're going to have to see if he can bridge the gap, counter hybrids, and if he can help the Highlanders get over. So, here we go. We've got the pets. What do we got?
Yep. We got the pet prediction. This is from my fish tank. They are looking 3 on the left for Winthrop. So it looks like they're expecting also a Winthrop win, but a 1 still over there for the Highlanders. So maybe they will take a game based on that prediction.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Oh man,
You know, we see too many dog predictions. We need more
we
fish
got
predictions.
Fortunately, we did not get gapped by the dog this time. Gonna have to see if we get gapped by the fish. But hey, in order to bring us all the action once again, we're gonna be joined by Mazel and Rebel Fox, going to take you through this one.
Welcome everyone to the caster desk. Thank you, Cubby, and thank you to the fish. You know, just give some appreciation out there. Also for the one Highlander fan, rooting strong. But we're gonna be getting into this game number 1 of this best of 3, Winthrop versus the Highlanders. Highlanders looking to continue their spree while Winthrop are trying to, silence some haters and continue to be a steadfast presence in the collegiate scene.
Yeah, the Highlanders have done some pretty crazy things over the last little while, and definitely, we call it an upset. I know that they were very prideful, and they said it was never really an upset in that regard, but at least in considerations that we've taken about our expectations for GVU, an upset from the Highlanders, and specifically, I guess the best way to call it is just a good win over top of GVU from the Highlanders, now competing against one of the tournament favorites here in Winthrop to be able to prove themselves again as one of the better teams here, to be able to take it into the top 8, and eventually end up in that series, which now is confirmed up against Buffalo because they just won their series against Illinois.
Yeah, so whoever wins here will go on to face the University at Buffalo in that round of 8. But we are going to pick some bands here. Rebel Winthrop on the blue side, Highlanders on the red side. Heard it from the desk. Highlanders want those counter picks. They want to be on that red side. They want to find those avenues for themselves early on in the draft. We'll see what happens, though. Urgot banned away by Winthrop, one of the most played there for the side of Gohan, so definitely need to get that one off the board. The pivotal junglers coming away from the Highlanders, things that have been really making their splash in the meta. Rumble, Morgana taken away. Rounded out by Winthrop taking away some of those key supports. Thresh, something that hasn't really been banned, at least on this stream for today, is going to make that first round of bans here for Winthrop, as well as the Rel. And then Shin, the final ban of the first phase from the Highlanders.
A little shocking also because I know that Sir Kenji's a really good Thresh player, so I'm a little surprised on that one. But at minimum, they are going to go immediately to Tristana because you believe in Saskia, a multi-time champion here inside of Collegiate in multiple positions. You know you're going to get that one for him. And definitely flexible to both the hybrids, who's very good, but also Doxa, who's got more than enough of a champion pool to run with. The Highlanders, they talk about the Urgot ban, obviously. Pretty much anything aggressive that can win lane, top lane, when you think about Bruiser and the definition, is anything that Gohan will play to. I expect things like Aatrox and Darius to be on the board potentially for him, and hybrids to have to respond to something like that. And this is also a very team fight heavy team, so the expectation that they want to bring into 4s and 5s and things of that sort, what champion do you want to put into that circumstance for Gohan, who might be one of these big targets for Highlanders here?
I'm actually really interested that we didn't see the Kaisa come through. I feel like Kaisa is still very, very strong. Jinx has been making a strong presence here recently, and especially today, been one of the most picked as well. They are going to round out that bottom lane composition with their first 2 picks on the board. It's going to be the Leona rounding out with the Jinx.
Yeah, Winthrop putting a couple of really important bans into Hot Ruffles, making sure that that defensive bottom lane just is not there, potentially, to try to, usually they're left a bit on an island for the Highlanders, and so they're taking away the defensive tools or things of that sort. Braum now taking on bottom side as well. For the amount of resource you put into making sure there's no defensive tools, I'm surprised they don't go for something really, really aggressive, although Braum in a melee versus melee matchup is very difficult to deal with. And with Tristana, you could jump in on Jinx. And also, it's going to be Frost Force going to another AP jungler who can pull out a bunch of tempo. We saw this earlier with the Nidalee, who had some pop-up performances. We'll see if Frost Force can match exactly what happened with University of Toronto and that kind of series in our third game of that previous one.
Yeah, definitely looking for that early onus. We talked a little bit about it on the desk. We're going to talk about it a little bit here too. Big focus on the junglers for this matchup. We think both of them are really, really important. And even more important is the fact that we get Damn Lost Gaming's Rek'Sai to come in the game.
we have seen a handful of different picks that have kind of popped up in response to the mages. When it comes to like, you got like Rumble and Diana and Morgana and Nidalee has popped up. Even Elise has been there and around, and people are coming up with these different picks. And it's like, okay, Kindred is the big one. I see a lot of people playing Kindred. I know Karthus is on the board, which is another AP jungler, but one that scales and clears just as fast as the others and does even better at that team fighting phase than a lot of those champions does. But this is the response specifically from Domlos as he's gone to this Rek'Sai. This was what gave them that Lich Pin pick in game number 3 against GVU, where he was able to dominate in that jungle position. The early aggression and the damage this champion's capable of is ridiculous. And so Domlos, he's looking to get some aggression into the earlier stages of the game instead of playing for that pure 5-on-5 that we know Highlanders are famous for.
Yeah, no Zed for Doxa today. We're getting very heavy lane, single lane focus, at least for both sides in the banning phase, the phase 2. We have Volibear taken away, Galio as well from Winthrop, and the Gnar also gets banned away. Gnar has been really strong, I feel like, recently, has a lot of versatility, so they don't want to deal with that one up there, but we do have some solo lanes to get to pick in here, and that's a pick I love to see. Zoe is locked in for the Highlanders.
Big fan of Zoe, bigger fan of taking Zoe away from Doxa, and I liked this response also where Highlanders, they say, we don't want something that counteracts the Zoe directly, or you're going to come up with something more creative, and then they ban out one of the best blind pick top laners because the whole time they were trying to get something for Gohan to respond to in topside. This would be a really interesting grab with the Yasuo. I'm curious if they're willing to pair it with like a top lane Gragas as well. Lucian was something I was exactly like this. You could flex this, so if you grab two, if you grab like Silas or something, you could easily move this around depending on what lane you're in, and both of them are okay into the likes of the Zoe, so you already got one confirmed decent lane between those two champions. It's dependent though. This champion though is fantastic to pop off. Every person on the side of Winthrop has been known to be capable of carrying, so all of them are a threat to play the Lucian. Even Sir Kenji's probably a threat to play the Lucian, to be quite honest.
You gotta watch out for where the weapons are drawn, and it does look like it's going to be in that mid lane. Sion comes in for Winthrop as their last pick. And I do have to say, just a little call out to the built-in synergy that is the Lucian Braum. I know they are maybe not laning together, but in the later parts of the game, that double tap on top of the passive there for Braum is so scary. That's why they became such a strong duo together in the first place when they first were released. But now things have calmed down a little bit. We do get a little bit of hype backup, though, because we have the set coming in for the Highlanders.
That it is. The decision is to put the set into the Sion. Sion's going to have a bunch of health for the majority of the game, so it's a perfect target to throw back. Also, if Sion ults into your team and gets a good engagement, if set it doesn't caught in that engagement, you can definitely disengage from that point with that showstopper, which is a phenomenal tool. Not to mention the number of champions that are squishy when you look at Lucian and you also look at like Tristana and Nidalee. Yeah. You drop a Sion with 5,000 health in the middle of them, all of a sudden that fight is very lost from the side of everything else. So good counter engage from the Highlanders who are going for it. And another pick that you can play to a little bit early. It's not super easy to find aggression into Sion. That's what makes it such a good blind pick. But combine that with a Rek'Sai, you got good CC and great damage to begin the game.
I think for me, it's also the differences in the way that we're going to see these kinds of team fights fight out. You have some poke options available for both sides. You got the javelins coming in from Frost Forest. You have the Zoe Paddle Stars plus Sleepy Trouble Bubbles coming in from Asian Knight. And those are going to be really what picks off a lot of like the little stragglers or things like that, the small advantage in the fights. But then we look at those big 5v5 fights, and there's a lot to go both ways. A lot of CC on both sides, a lot of damage to be done on both sides. The only thing I worry about, for the Highlanders, you're going to have that mix of damage. You don't want to necessarily put all your eggs into the maybe ghost basket on the Jinx, although it could be a good time. You look at the other side, you see so many pick potentials, you see so much damage coming out. If you do have that single carry focus on your team, it's not going to work out for you. So I need to see that gold spread out for the love of the Highlanders.
I'm a little worried for the Highlanders comp, only because their primary engage tools are like Rek'Sai tunneling in, which is pretty straightforward, Set running at you, pretty straightforward, a bubble coming in, which can be a little bit crazy, but that is only one person, and Braum can always block the Paddle Star or whatever it might be, and then Leona, which has like the ultimate, the Solar Flare is pretty good and from range, but outside of that Solar Flare, the true engage from this team is relatively lacking, especially against a team like Winthrop here, who, you look at what they've got, Tristana can get out of that with a jump, you've got like the dash coming out from Lucian, the Pounce coming out from the Nidalee, the Braum can even jump to somebody, and there's no really good targets to try to throw that relatively kind of transparent CC onto. So, Winthrop has a very high execution because they've got a lot of squishy champions who do some pretty good damage in the early game. Their team fight isn't perfect. It's mostly back to front for the most part, but you do have a lot of ways to counteract a lot of the skill expression that we know Winthrop's trying to put against all of these opposition, because they have some of the best players in the league. They're one of the tournament favorites for a very specific reason, and they're showing it with this comp, where there's a high level of execution that they will almost certainly attain during the course of this game, especially in those 5-on-5s that the Highlanders are famous for playing to. And it's going to be up to Highlanders, I think, now actually to put some more own your stages. Sir Kenji, he can roam on Braum, but you do a lot of work roaming with Hot Ruffles as well. You got the Rek'Sai for a lot of early game pressure to put into 2 different members of your team in the solo lanes that have CC to work with as well. I think that the Highlanders strike early and often. They have a pretty good team fight to work with, and it's a lot harder for Winthrop to focus down targets in this front to back.
I'm always a fan of trying to get a Nidalee behind, because I do feel like Nidalees just fall off the face of the earth if you're not getting any gold, if you're not getting that advantage early on. That's one of the biggest weak points for Nidalees, especially early, and Rek'Sai is one of those early skirmishing junglers. You know, you hit that level 3, you have a lot to say in the fights, especially in the 1v1. So we'll see how the predation goes for both of these would-be predators, as we'll see if which one comes out on top on the day. But more so, I want to go back to the point that you said, you were talking about engage, right? I feel like both sides are lacking like a little bit of engage for themselves. Like they're mostly gonna be waiting for the fights to happen. They're gonna be looking for the picks. Somebody gets caught out, a straggler or something like that. That's where you capitalize. But the big engages are not necessarily always gonna be there.
Yeah, you talk about like the pick potential between like Zoe with paddle stars and then also the bubbles. And on the opposite side, it's Nidalee just throwing, javelins and spears at people like constantly over and over and over again. And those are your 2 main like poking tools. And from that point, it's just who lands an engage. The reason I give it to specifically Winthrop in this game is that like Sion has a number of ways to try to engage a fight, but that ultimate is humongous. And Braum's ultimate is pretty long range as well, which is nice for, generating some sort of pick. It's not perfect. It's also really good counter engage. If a set's able to actually snag the Sion and pull them into your team, Braum ultimate can completely deter the team from entering with the slow and the knockup that'll come off the back of it. So I really like the setup here that Winthrop has drafted for themselves with their high mobility and good engage and counter engage, which is why I pointed it might be difficult here for the Highlanders to try to find some aggression into the likes of Winthrop, which is why like I said, gold advantage, control of the map, forcing them into areas of the map that you want them to around dragons, barons, things like that, usually is helpful for getting these kinds of things done. So I want to see specifically Damloss get very aggressive in this early game and try to pull some pressure off the remainder of the map.
Yeah, I think also we've already like danced circles around it. We've talked a little bit about how important the jungle matchup is going to be in this one, and especially not having gotten to see Rek'Sai a ton recently, just a little bit here or there, but also just being the same vein of jungler. I feel like where you are looking for the early pathing, you're looking to try to get the vision down early so you can find out where the Nidalee is. But on the other side, you need to get this Nidalee ahead. You need to get it going into the lanes. I think that this matchup is going to rely heavily on both the junglers and their early pathing. And just like we've seen a lot recently across the board, internationally, in amateur, in collegiate, it all comes down to the early pathing, early decision-making for these junglers. And this one is no different.
Frostforce has a high level of expectation, not only being Frostforce, who's an incredible jungler in his own right, but also, like you said, when it comes to pacing of the game, it can be controlled really heavily by Rek'Sai. If you're not careful and you get knocked up, you end up getting killed because of like just the pure burst damage that lethality Rek'Sai can bring in the early stages of the game. So what I'm keeping an eye on here is actually less about where Frostforce is at and the typical pathing, but more so how these lanes are able to move. Lucian should have some lane priority to begin the lane. You talk about like Sion has decent wave clear, and like Set can fight to get lane priority, but it is going to require a bit of a health trade on his behalf. But more specifically, the Lucian is what I'm keeping my eyes on, because moving your mid laner constantly out of mid and into the jungle to support the Nidalee makes it a little bit harder for something like the Rek'Sai. When you're squishy, you're relatively like low earlier on. It's not the healthiest of clears in the most ridiculous of fashion, like old Rek'Sai and tank Rek'Sai from back in the day. Instead, now there's some risk associated with trying to find pure aggression in a Nidalee if you don't have control of at least one of your side lanes.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting thing is like where we're going to see this Rek'Sai's build go to. Obviously, you're highlighting to the lethality build. Maybe see some differences in that fashion, but it all comes down to this first game. Where you get those draft bucks, where you get those advantages in this best of 3 series. As we get yet another animal cam shot. Dead animal as well, but we're getting into game number 1 between Winthrop and Highlander Gaming.
That we are. More smurfing by our observers who've just been doing this
So
to us, literally us in the desk all day have just been gapped by our observing team. Big appreciation for them. Hey, it's pretty crazy. But we're in for a high expectation for this game from both of these teams. I would love to see the Highlanders come out and really take it to Winthrop. Again, the confidence that they had in the previous week, expecting themselves to take that win, you can't think that that's faltered whatsoever, even though they're playing against one of the tournament favorites here from Winthrop. And that level of confidence can make a pretty big deal when it comes to how a team is playing. I do like also that Hot Ruffles immediately goes for the ward to be defensive and then swaps to the red ward in case they want to go for a late invade, something that a Leona could play here. Although Braum is it's very near impossible to beat a Braum's level 1. There's nothing that beats that with the passive, with the concussions, the blows, not to mention the Q is just it's a good amount of damage, but it's also just a chunk that slows you down. Like, it's so tough to deal with a Braum's level 1.
Yeah, it definitely is. We are looking like we're going to get the opposite side starts for both these junglers. Maybe some differencing in where they want to focus early on. We'll get to that short.
We're stacking on red side.
Yeah, I was about to say, Frostfor is giving up the early buff start here for potential early advantage on bot side.
They're going to just snag this buff. No one's here. There's no vision.
They don't really have any vision. Nothing's seen. No pings have
this
come
is
out.
Fast, too.
This is some 007 stuff going on right here. No passive stacks there from the Braum, but it's fine.
There's not even like river wards too, so if they're really creative with the way that they approach, it's going to look like they came through the tri-brush. That's what's going to happen. They're not going to know that there's blue, and probably the Braum's going to get taken either. That's so cool for Winthrop being able to use this late invade and just snagging free camps from the Rek'Sai. Actually, Domlos comes immediately to blue buff.
This is going to be really rough. They're both at least Domlos is really low on health. Frostforce is getting there. We'll find it out. There's the stun flash in. Frostforce has to run away. Does not have the flash available. This is going to be a little bit of a walk fest. And Damlos burns the flash, gets Frost's flash, and also gets the Grom.
Actually, like, big props to Domlos right there. Not only burning the double flash between him and his opposition, like, the blast cone over the wall was not hidden by the grass. That was something that could have been spotted by Frostforce, maybe just an inch, looking somewhere else on the map, maybe not paying attention for half of a second, but had to go in, throws the ward down so that he knows that there's no vision, and the instant flash to get the knock-up onto Frostforce, not expecting it with the smite confirm, actually wins back the Grump, thankfully, where Domlos could have been in a really rough position. You lose both those camps and nearly gets away, kind of scot-free, then there's a really bad position that you're stuck in as Rek'Sai, where your camps are just going to be behind, and all of a sudden Nidalee gets to control everything. But thankfully, now it's going to be able to contest for these river scuttlers, being able to snag those away. Nidalee has a bit of a rough time, not to mention she's pathing up towards blue to be defensive. If he beats her here, you could go for kill potential, but more specifically, I think a double scuttle would be something that's very on the books here for the side of Domlos. Frostforce knows this and is pulling Sir Kenji up to the top side of the map.
Domlos is going to be in some trouble here. He's got 3 members here trying to go for the kill on Frostforce. Doesn't get it. Gets the tunnel away, but right into the spear of Frostforce. His first blood goes over to Winthrop.
You always have to consider who's got first move out of mid lane. Right there, it was Sir Kenji who joined. But even if Sir Kenji is not there, at minimum, you shove out Domlos from this top side scuttle and force him to either reverse pathing to bot side, where you just lose your blue buff in terms of the full clear, or you compete like you did right there, not expecting Sir Kenji, and you get brought down because you don't have flash, which is exactly what just happened, where Doxa was able to come in and support with Sir Kenji into Frostforce, who's going to be able to go for a full clear. Really impressive stuff. Not to mention, their back timing was already there. You see Tristana's coming back to lane, so no threat there. Top lane was coming relatively quickly, but again, Doxa's so much closer to that play that it's not even any concern of his as to anything else that would come about. So that movement from Doxa already paying dividends. Domlos thankfully does get the other crab, but again, this is just a net loss of both the kill and the blue buff from the Rek'Sai.
Okay, they commit for the fight here.
Oh, wow.
Over the wall, Sir Kenji is found. Sleepy Trouble Bubble lands perfectly. There's the setup, and there's the kill. The response, Damlos Gaming returning some of their own here as they do get the 1 kill over. It will be both junglers with those kills. And honestly, I was very impressed early on by Domlos's pathing, how he was kind of approaching this, and to get knocked down early but then come right back to it. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan, actually, of what was happening from specifically Sir Kenji, where the thought process is, I need to defend jungle entrance to make sure Raptors can't get stolen away by Domlos, because Rek'Sai actually takes those exceptionally quick. And the response from Hot Ruffles and the rest of this team to know, okay, if he catches him there, they catch him on vision when he's stepping up to do so, and they end up finding that bubble, which is able to lead to the kill. So it's a response where Rek'Sai is able to stay relevant in the earlier phases of the game. Frostforce not going to just completely get his, eat it, or make his cake and eat it too, I guess is the proverb.
I do want to give a shout out to Frost Force's answer to that question
Mm-hmm.
there a second ago. Building some confidence in himself, building, feeling comfortable with what he's been able to do, not ever thinking they would be at this point. So, also the fact that you like to see the world. I like traveling too, but one day we'll get back to it. But you gotta appreciate it. Frost Force going to start up this dragon. We'll be the first dragon to go over, just a mountain dragon, but it will be the first objective taken, and we'll go over to Winthrop.
Oh,
Asian
goodness.
Knight has to flash over the wall, almost went down to Doxa. And Doxa is pressuring this mid lane so heavily. Up 20 farm, has been pressing up under the tower every single chance that he gets.
Yep.
And Asian Knight, a little bit worse for wear.
I don't think it's time to say the line, but I'm going to call for the line when you know it. You know exactly what I'm talking about, but we're not going to say it yet.
I almost said it. I
know. I can tell you
wait.
almost said it. We're saving it for the right time period, so we're just going to prevent that from coming through. Thankfully, Asian Knight didn't use the TP right there to come back to lane, so instead was able to use it on that response. So not as bad as it could have been, but yeah, that 20 CS lead from Doxa, that's what happened when Asian Knight had to move out of lane to find that bubble into Braum to get that one response kill. So it is Highlanders who are striking back on the map, actually surprisingly effectively. You also see the massive lead Gohan's got in top lane with this set pick into the Scion. But this is still a game that Highlanders like to play only because they go for 5-on-5. So our expectation of them grouping together around some of these dragons, these neutral objectives, is very high for this team. We'll see if they can pull that off when the time comes. Not having Zoe in a place where it's easy to move against Doxa is very tough to control the map, though. So river fighting is going to be a lot harder when you have to walk in blind.
So I talked about the Nidalee needing to get ahead. You fall off a cliff to an extent if you don't have that gold. You're not doing necessarily as much as you would want to. I feel like Zoe, a little bit more in the same vein, not as much, right? You still have a lot of tools available to them. You're not just going to be a DPS sink, but Zoe's paddle stars don't hurt that much if you don't have a lot of gold and your enemy team is ahead. And we'll see how that kind of works out, especially in the target calling. But that's something I do want to watch out for, because as Doxa gets more ahead, as this Lucian gets scarier and scarier, the priority there for Asian Knight in the mid lane is going to go down. And I want to see if there's something that the Highlanders can do to get this mid lane unstuck.
I will say, if you go for something very earthy like Horizon focus, as soon as this laning phase is out, Asian Knight immediately gains quite a bit more damage. It's basically just a free 10% damage on everything Zoe does, because it's all skill shots and it's all from an extreme range. So there's that to consider at least a little bit, especially when bubbles come through and things of that sort. But that requires being out of laning phase, which needs to be broken here by the side of Highlanders, who now, I mean, you have to consider this dominance of top side. Can you use this and translate it into something like a Rift Herald? There's a rocket coming. Oh.
It was so close getting hybrids there, and that would have been the trigger pull from Gohan too with the flash face breaker, but nothing comes of it. The rocket goes just wide, and see what happens next time. As seemingly on these streams, the rockets get better and better as the time goes on.
I have to wonder really heavily whether or not somebody on the side of Winthrop actually communicated that from hybrids, or whether hybrids saw that at the last second and flashed out of the way. You have to think, because it seems surprising he had to flash, but the rocket was coming from a very strange angle. I don't know if anybody would have seen it. There might have been a possibility to see it. I don't know. I would love to have heard the comms during that little situation, though, because it would have been hysterical. Either him freaking out because he had to flash it or something like that. But
there's a rocket.
Nothing to worry about, though. Again, consistent push on bottom lane. Mid lane is still getting consistent push as well, as first items are going to start to trickle in here after a couple more minutes. And that dragon is something to pay attention to, because, again, that's going to draw a lot of Highlanders' attention, being this kind of 5-on-5 focused team, wanting to look for those multi-person team fights consistently over the course of the game. This is risky from Sasuke. Oh no.
My god, he runs straight into Hot Ruffles. The Solar Flare is going to miss, but here comes the predation that is Damn Lost Gaming. We'll see what happens on to Sasuke, though. TP is now coming down. They are full committing to this dive. There's the showstopper, into the face breaker, into the double kill combo, because second time is the charm, Rebel. We got a Mega Death Rocket to get that double kill for Ghost.
Incredible shifting of vision into bottom side to be able to see this from the side of the Highlanders. They bring multiple targets exactly as we had expected, and something I also love to see. Yes, you've been able to collect some advantage on top lane, but transitioning it is the most important thing. Look at this. These were wards that got snuck in here. Gorgeous. Yeah, Sasuke can't do much. Almost flashes to get away from the Prey Seeker, which I think would have got him out of that situation, but because Rek'Sai gets to enter with red buff, even through the exhaust, you're stuck. TP is gorgeous also from the set to be able to come in here, and you're going to be able to snag this massive massive showstopper. Even better, Jinx gets the ult back and gets both of these kills with just that one rocket, which is humongous for the Jinx in the team fighting phase, which is what Highlanders are really famous for. So big stuff from this team, finding that aggression. It did give up Rift Herald, so there's going to be gold, and first tower is going to be broken for Doxa here. So now it's about how do you get Doxa involved into these side lanes as much as possible alongside the Nidalee.
And I was just going to say, before all that craziness happened, that Winthrop were looking really good. They were using their waves really well. They were continuously pushing on bot side, moving Sasuke, moving Kenji away, trying to get something going in mid lane, trying to propel that lead for Doxa even more so. Then they get capitalized on by great movements from Highlander Gaming, and all of a sudden, just like that, you've got to be really careful about what happens on this bot side. You have a dragon up. It's an ocean dragon. You have a lot of priority now for Highlanders, and I want to see if they can use that to an extent, because we did say we need to see at least Domlos getting involved early, getting maybe some gold on Asian Knight, things like that happening. That hasn't necessarily happened. A lot of the gold has gone down onto maybe Ghost, which is fine and dandy, right? You're giving the hyper carry gold, but you still want to see it spread to an extent so you're not just focusing on that one piece that we highlighted in the draft.
I have to give actually a number of props specifically for the design of what's happening right now from Highlanders, because in all the games I was able to watch of theirs, most of the time their bottom lane is just left on a complete island. There's no focus whatsoever. Usually they're just kind of soaking, waiting for the later stages of the game. Okay, missed that. Yeah. Okay,
so close. The Hot Ruffles goes in. I don't know. The Zenith played a little bit over eager there. Not going to go down just yet. You have Hybrids and Gohan coming down. They're trying to race to the fight here. Sasuke goes over the wall, but the Void Rush gets the kill. And Domlos Gaming is turning it up right now. Flashes for the knock-up. Maybe Ghost is going to get a killing spree. And the Highlanders are taking it to one of the top teams that we thought was in this tournament. Winthrop dropping the fight and getting slaughtered on the Rift. To see what Hot Ruffles can do to get out of this when Doxa goes in for the kill. And will be one return, but a great fight altogether. And Sleepy Trouble Bubble from a mile away is going to get the kill. One more auto attack. That's the Gale Force picked up an Asian Knight. Makes
You're not
his
zoomed in
name
enough.
known.
Zoom in on that, man. That was insane bubble right there to be able to tag Dox at the end of that fight. That was so cool. Highlanders, they play for these 5-on-5 fights, and you saw right there, Winthrop not super well committed to this dragon. They kind of are just like lax around the area. They're snagging this one. Everything comes through. They think they get Hot Ruffles, but this is a bait because they always fight for these 4-on-4s, 5-on-5s this early into the game. Hot Ruffles, I don't know how he lived so long. It was a little ridiculous. A couple of members get very low here. Sasuke tries to throw in damage. They find the initial play from Domlos, who gets the assassination. All of a sudden, everything is onto Doxa, who gets split out the top side of the fight. Yeah, everything, this flash, to be able to snag another one. You see that Jinx is able to just deliver damage. The bubble's huge, and they stall long enough for Gohan to get the pullback as well, who's also sitting on very low health. Nobody's been able to put all this damage in for the most part, and Doxa gets one on the very end here, snagging Hot Ruffles, but I can't even speak enough to how incredible this bubble is about to be. I'm just going to leave this in silence. Gorgeous.
And even the flash to top it off. I know it doesn't get cleaned up like immediately, so it's a little bit messy, but you know, picking up the Gale Force there to be able to finish it off, you gotta love it. And great plays from Highlanders. 7-2 already. No objective kills or no objectives to speak of, but they have found those advantages where they need to.
Yeah. Actually, we get a little bit of a quote here from, Hot Ruffles, who says, "Who is your expectation of the toughest competition? No one, only my own self is my toughest competition." Maybe they're on to something right now. Our expectation for Winthrop, very high for this team. And Highlanders coming out, giving them everything and more that you'd be expecting off the back of, again, a stylistic difference. We never really seen the bot lane absorb this many resources before. Big props to them for making that change happen. Their tree team fighting, it's been kind of sharpened to a Q. And even Doxa's presence pretty much around the map and his ability to carry is something that Winthrop actually goes back to time and time again. And it's not shining through quite yet. It's going to take another item or so before Doxa gets into it. Now Gohan finds himself a situation to win to.
Doxa's just going to die. And there's your carry. Poof, gone. And that is huge, again, for the Highlanders. They make it known that they are not here to mess around.
No.
They are the top competition here, and they're taking it to Winthrop.
This is incredible to watch. They're not letting Winthrop just sit here and do anything that you would expect them to, given that they're number one team. They're attacking constantly all over the map. They're making these plays on their own. Right there, Doxa had like 2 members hovering him. They didn't see those 2 members. Somehow Gohan fits in this perfect engagement to find a haymaker, and the TP cover from Asian Knight means that you can no longer come into this fight. I don't know how you perfectly space this. Look at this. They have the blast code over, and this is the exact moment he goes in, finds the majority of this damage, showstopper into haymaker, is going to get this kill, and the TP behind, you can't even respond, because then you're going to get punished by the Zoe off the back end of this one. The coverage over and over again from this Highlander squad is not something I was expecting, and it looks like Winthrop is in the exact same boat.
Frostforce can't even make it into his own jungle without taking some damage here. As Highlander Gaming is really just pressing as much as they can on the map. They've gotten Hot Ruffles going away. And I just want to make a side point that Hot Ruffles took that 1v4. Very personified of what he said right afterwards. At least we got the quote after. He's like, nobody's my competition. I take 1v5s all day. As that's going to be another huge moment for the Highlanders. And really just this game itself, not very far in the lead, but the mental advantage right now feels like it's a mile.
Not to mention, like, the team fights have gone the way that you wanted them to. Your Jinx is super fed. Your Rek'Sai is in a really good place to do a bunch of damage here in the earlier phases of the game. Your Set's in a pretty solid place for a side lane. The one person who's not there quite yet is Asian Knight, but you really just need the bubbles, to be quite honest, in order to actually respond. This team is down CS in a couple of places, specifically mid lane. Right now, you're down about 70 CS to your opposition, which is a tough place to be, and that's why this gold looks really even right now, as it's the CS and the towers that have been taken across the map here from Winthrop. But again, if this game divulges into Highlander Gaming playing the 5-on-5, that's what they're looking for. That's where they really thrive, and keeping the gold even for a 5-on-5 seems to be favoring them pretty heavily.
You get the Sleepy Trouble bubble there on the Frostforce. Frostforce able to land a Javelin to respond to the Asian Knight, though. I was going to say we had the flank coming in from Gohan, the deep flank. Doxa was down there to stop him, but isn't going to be so anymore. Gohan will be found out here, uses Stridebreaker, gets away there. The dragon is started up as Winthrop have to make it around the horn to try to get into this fight. It is the Highlanders who continue to do this. They're going to take the showstopper into the fight. Gohan with the Facebreaker onto Doxa. Doxa's the main target. Domlos goes in but almost dies. Void Rush comes out. The healing's not going to be enough. All of a sudden, Winthrop are in advantage of this fight. They are in front of the dragon pit now. They will burn down this dragon. Good thing for Highlanders. They almost get the steal on that one, but they back off just in time, realizing that without Domlos, they don't have a great front line.
My expectation for that fight was a lot different than what just happened. I thought the reason that Domlos was diving so far in an attempt to grab a kill was to push this team further back, or at least Winthrop back a little bit of space, so that Highlanders could commit to the dragon and stall this one out. Instead, it's almost like they pulled off the dragon and attempted to jump past to look for the team fight, and all that it ended up doing was costing Domlos his life, and it ended up with a full retreat that ended up in the go. So first off, Gohan got caught out. That's going to happen from time to time. I think right here you back off and you don't reset the dragon. You don't take aggro whatsoever, and that might be a little bit safer. But they're willing to take this 5-on-5, which looks okay to start with this massive showstopper onto Doxa, combined with that rocket that almost tags Doxa, and with the Haymaker would have certainly been the death. Domlos is in the middle of the team. Right here, I thought they were just going to blitz down the dragon as fast as possible, but instead, they walk past, they look to put more damage into Winthrop, and unfortunately, they're not capable of doing so. The dragon respawned high enough to where they can't burst it down anymore, and because they have the smite, they're going to be able to. Thankfully, they don't give up too much, but now all of a sudden, Soul Point is on the table here for Winthrop. That could be a big deciding factor into the stats of this game that Winthrop used to get back in, who now sit on like a 1,500, 2,000 gold lead as Highlanders
stop. They don't stop, Rebel. We go in, and that's how Ruffles really going in with the Solar Flare. Asian Knights half health off of one spear. They can follow it up here, though. Domlos Gaming out on the side, does get away. The Rift Herald's very, very low here. Smite available. Smited away by Domlos, but Gohan's in the middle of everybody. They get one of the kills as it goes over to maybe Ghost, but the next one's going to fall as Hot Ruffles, as well as the rest of Highlanders. There's 3-3 back on the map here. Couple low health bars, but serious strength still there for Winthrop. They have both of their carries, and here goes Doxa. He gets one. You got Goomba stomping happening on the other side. Sasuke with the buster shot over the wall, and there he goes again, trying to get Ghost flashes. That's the kill. That's the reset, and there he is. Sasuke ain't playing with his feet no more.
About as close as it could be. I was worried right there that Highlanders were going to end up pulling a couple more plays out of the back end of that one with the Rift Herald and turning this gold lead. But thankfully, the experienced members here on the side of Winthrop are enough to make this happen. It starts off really rough. Jinx can't burn through the front line right now. Hybrids is not taking enough damage from anyone for anything to matter, which is a rough position to be in. Look at that. They just get free shots into Hybrids, and he's barely half health at this one, and it's kind of difficult. I like that they go for Rift Herald. The Showstopper is amazing right here, and keep attention because Damlos finds his way in to get picks onto Frost Force and to put some more pressure into this backline, end up getting Hybrids off the, or almost getting Hybrids, my apologies, off the back end of it. This is the continuation that they needed. I thought it was really good from Gohan, who was able to find a nice little pull onto Doxa and end up trading the Lucian for everything else. Asian Knight isn't that valuable. I thought this was the play that could turn the fight eventually with a buster shot, man. That Haymaker hitting with true damage, probably enough to win this fight here for the side of Highlanders, but instead, the buster shot perfectly timed from Saskiel to continue the rest of it, let him continue to auto-attack, and the fight win goes to the side of Winthrop finally.
Yes, it does. Oh, that's great. Especially after what just was talked about, what just happened. Saskiel, give the man a job. Give him an offer. He'll take it. He'll carry your professional League of Legends team. There's the man right there, the myth, the legend, Saskiel, with Saskio's feet somewhere to be behind. We'll see what happens, though, if Saskiel can really carry the rest of this game. Is 4-2 now, about to crest that 3-item mark on the Tristana. Always feels really good.
Yes.
You are going up against maybe Ghost, who's been popping off on this Jinx.
Yeah, you also have to think the Lucian's nearing 3 items as well, where Dox is going to be in that territory as well. And at that point, Jinx is in really dire straits because Jinx has to itemize really heavily to armor penetration to get through Hybrids as fast as possible. So it's up to Gohan and Domlos to put some pressure into this mid-fight to make sure Frost Force and Doxa and Saskio can't access the Jinx before some damage really starts to get laid in. I think even a bubble from Asian Knight is enough peel to try to make sure that none of these members can challenge into the mid-fight to go up against Jinx at any point to allow maybe Ghost to start carrying these fights. Specifically, you see the last Whisper's done. It's not going to be done in time for this Dragon, which is the one true travesty here for the side of the Highlanders, who now are going to have to try to take a 5-on-5, else they give up the Cloud Soul, which is one of the, ironically, one of the best percentage souls for winning games. I'm not exactly sure why that is. That would need more testing, but this Rift Herald drop on their part is used to try to muscle back some of the map here before the Dragon is going to be contested and the 5-on-5 is going to be attacked.
So Rift Herald was dropped by maybe Ghost here, just trying to get some, at least, pressure relief. A lot of defense right here in the mid lane, though, by Winthrop is going to get the Rift Herald down very low. They want to try to shuffle it here to try to get the charge off. Not going to be so, and now the fight will transition down to this Dragon. You're buying some time. Maybe Asian Knight was able to find a Sleepy Trouble bubble off on the side. Unable to do so just yet. Frost Force takes a nice little battle start to the face. But it's very contested in the mid lane. Both teams trying to get priority here to transition down into that Dragon Pit. You see now Showstopper into it. Frost Force goes out. That's tons of damage. Nobody has touched maybe Ghost. And you've already lost one member. See if they can take the fight on the other side of it. Sleepy Trouble Bubble's not going to connect. Culling will connect. Dox is trying to take on the team by his lonesome. Here comes the Unstoppable Onslaught into the members, but that's a big knock-up. Face breaker, and the Highlanders are taking the fight. You've got Hybrids to try to do something.
No, it's dead.
But it doesn't matter. Look at the health bars. It was so close, yet so far. And Winthrop lose the fight, lose the Dragon.
And we're in a place right now where, like, Winthrop, they have nothing to bait with at all during fights. When you have, like, bubbles and you have, like, or, like Prey Seekers and you've got, like, the Solar Flare and things that you can bait with on the side of Highlanders, there's so many things you have to pay attention to. And if anything gets caught, the problem is that fight goes awry. And right there, Highlanders use it to bait out a couple of members. You end up not losing a single member of your fight and snagging your first Dragon in the game, stalling this out even further. Now you've got Last Whisper item completed on your Jinx as well. This is how things started. It starts with a great bubble that tags Frost Force, which you'll have to watch from Asian Knight, that goes into a great Showstopper as well, where you pull Hybrids and do so much damage to this backline. This is humongous right there.
Yeah, on top of the Sleepy Trouble bubble with the damage that Hybrids did because of the Showstopper.
And Doxa.
Huge, but then the follow-up, Doxa is so close to getting so much. This Showstopper or Facebreaker here on the backside of Gohan, that triple Facebreaker is just too much. Like, after that, the fight just goes completely in favor of Highlanders.
it's like Winthrop is prepared for all of the damage that can come out, but the one person they're not accounting for ever is Gohan. Gohan is able to find these amazing face breakers and haymakers and showstoppers that are just winning these 5-on-5 fights. Here we go, Hot Ruffles 5D!
Sasuke's just gone.
He's dead.
Domlos Gaming takes the kill. That's huge for the side of the Highlander Gaming. Sir Kenji very low, just going to get bursted down by the 2 carries here, and Ghost goes on a killing spree now. This could just be the Baron, as there's no response from Hybrids unless he wants to TP from across the map.
And this might be the turning point here. I don't know if you can actually contest this. You have 2 of your members down. It's got to be massive for Doxa to try to play right here, but Gohan is bouncing them, making sure it's not going to come in.
They're going to focus on Gohan. Gohan goes to the showstopper onto Frost Force. Frost Force getting pretty low. The Baron's already down. Now the rest of the members are coming down to town. Gohan doesn't go down to the spear. He barely gets out of there by Hot Ruffles, putting his body in the way. And after all is said and done, Baron goes over to Highlander Gaming.
They are getting away with murder right now. The attempted contest was there from Hybrids and Doxa and Frost Force. I thought they were going to get a chance at a fight or at least a couple of kills to pull some of the Baron off, but somehow Highlanders are able to do a saving Private Gohan to make sure he's able to get out of that situation. And how, Mazel, how did they turn this game completely around?
They're still barely in the lead, too. It's not like...
Yeah.
I just have to calm everything down right now and say, this day has lived up to everything we could have ever asked for. Like, even this first game of the second series is a banger. We've had banger, 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 banger all day long so far, and it's only getting started here as we have this series starting up. And it's 17-8. The Highlanders up in kills, not up in objectives, but having huge map pressure and having the play calls that really matter.
I'm also just baffled by the fact of just how effective this team is playing with champions that typically just fall off eventually, or champions that are way too far behind. Look at Dox's CS. He's literally doubled what Asian Knight is going for, far and away Flame Horizoning. This is why the gold is so even. If this gold and the CS were relatively even for both sides, this would be a massive advantage for Highlanders. You can see that Doxa is the one
everywhere else. Everybody else has a gold lead except for Doxa.
Yes, which is why Doxa's got to be the hero in this game. You've seen the damage that the Lucian can do in the right fighting sense, and if you buy space for Sasuke, he could do the exact same thing, but so far they haven't been able to get around Gohan, they haven't been able to get around Hot Ruffles and Dom Loss. Yeah, the lockdown is there, the extra damage that those champions bring, and then just like the bubbles and stuff coming in. There's so many things you have to pay attention to fish with that it's so hard for those champions, even with their high mobility, to get out of really risky situations. You do have, however, a 2-dragon buffer to work with. Winthrop could take this into really far late game territory and let their extremely experienced lineup attempt to take them into a win after like the 40-50 minute mark.
Yeah, we shall see. Third item has been achieved for Doxa. Looking for the difference maker out of the mid lane for Winthrop. See, I didn't use it there. But we are going to see that item spike come through for Winthrop itself. Needs to get the tools into the right positions for the fights, though. With all that lockdown we were talking about, we've seen Doxa just getting shut down over and over again. Last time, Sasuke getting caught out by the Zenith Blade from Hot Ruffles. Everything just needs to line up for Winthrop if they want to have a chance in these team fights.
Yeah, watch also, it says like Baron buff is being used right now, but they're not full sieging, because again, this is more of a team fighting team than anything else when it comes down to it. Right now, you also have Frost Force hovering Doxa in the side lane. No competition from Asian Knight whatsoever. And if they use this push exclusively to grab Dragon in 10 seconds, I feel like Doxa is going to be able to do a lot more work with that. So that's why you see right here, Gohan has backed. Doxa is still here. I honestly think in the right situation, if he doesn't get CC'd, could easily take that 2-on-1, and especially with Frost Force around, that's absolutely the case. Is it's just going to be the rest of the team taking this dragon, getting their second of the game. It's not the biggest deal in the world. What?
4 Cloud Dragons on the side of Highlander Gaming. That's all. I'm just gonna say, there's a lot of really short ulti cooldowns already on the side of Highlander Gaming. We'll see what happens if they can grab up a couple more. They do secure their second dragon of the game, where it was Winthrop not really wanting to be on that side of the map, trying to get advantages elsewhere.
They do. Like I said, I feel like Winthrop at that point could easily take a much later game if they really wanted to buy themselves another 10 minutes before the fight really has to come down. At that point, you're going to have a Lucian on 4 items. You're going to have a Tristana on 4, 4.5, 5 items, something like that between those two. And your only real competition, even at that point, is probably going to be Jinxes. You don't even have a second item on Asian Knight, who's not collecting any farm right now. By that point, also, you have to think, like, if Guardian Angel gets put into that build, all of a sudden Domlos loses a bunch of damage. Gohan loses a bunch of damage. A mild amount of armor could go an extremely long way here for the side of Winthrop and their ability to kind of contest in these fights. Once the base damages stop having the kind of effect they've had up until this point in the game, there could be some real shifts in the way that these 5-on-5s are playing out. I feel like this almost has to be Highlanders trying to generate their own 5-on-5s before some of the extra items and this late game possibility is there from Winthrop, unless they're really that confident in their ability to win any 5-on-5, which in fairness, I have no reason to doubt them. I would expect them to do it. They've been doing it all game to just very sweet a plum. Only 1,000 gold lead. Doxa's also putting a ton of pressure. Double ADC should be able to crack this bottom tower. Gohan might be looking for something though.
Gohan stepping forward immediately as soon as Doxa dash forward. The tower does go down. That will be 5 towers picked up for Winthrop, but yeah, it's the thing is that it turns on its head as soon as one of these members gets caught. As soon as Doxa, as soon as Sasuke gets some CC down on him, everybody, as we've seen time and time again for the side of Highlanders, collapse on those CC'd members, and that is the focus. So we'll see how that kind of works out, especially I think it's going to be super integral to how Winthrop want to win the fight. I mean, obviously, they have these 2-star carries. They have these 2 ADCs who are going to be feeling really, really good as we are at that 31-minute mark. But it's the positioning that matters so much. You never have the health bar. You always wish you had as an ADC. You've got to make sure that you're mechanically strong and mechanically confident.
My one problem also is there still stands an outer tower here from the side of Winthrop to work around, so vision is a little bit easier to try to actually grasp from their part, which is why, like, if you see the vision line right now, it's actually pushed into the shallow parts of the Highlanders jungle, which is humongous, and that's why, you know, they're allowed to walk up into mid lane and even further than mid lane because they've got all this vision behind them. And Highlanders, they're not playing for picks, they're not playing for vision control, they're playing to set up specifically around neutral objectives for these 5-on-5s. That's what they're doing. They're muscling through mid, they're walking into top river for the Baron that's going to be spawned here, or is spawned right now, and that's going to be their play. They're trying to goad out another 5-on-5.
A lot of damage. Showstopper onto Doxa here. Facebreaker as well. There's the CC chain I was talking about, but they don't get the damage. They can't stick it as it's Tom Lost Gaming in the back of everybody. Doesn't get the kill. Goes down himself. And now you got a 4v5 with health bars not looking too great. Hybrid's very, very low, but again, the culling comes down. Asian Knight has to splash away. Gohan's there. Doxa's going to get the kill, but Frost Force is going to go huge as a double kill comes down for the ADC of Highlanders, but it does not matter. 3 still alive, 3 strong for Winthrop.
Frost Forest with that Zonia is just 100% baited out, maybe goes too ripped through 3 members of the side of Winthrop before finally being silenced at the end of that. I was terrified at the prospect that that was just about to get excited and maybe Ghost was going to start destroying this team, but fortunately able to slow that one down enough. Frost Force able to live at the very end. Doxa still was there for damage, Hybrid was there for frontline, and they end up winning their first fight, snagging this Baron, and now they've got pressure potentially to push for what will be another fight around this next Cloud Drake. This is the play initially. I'm a little confused. I want to get your impression of something, because into the backline ends up going Domlos, and I'm curious, was he in range for Hybrids? Because that ultimate could have gone on to Hybrids, killed off Hybrids instead, but he goes for a squishy member, trying to push them further back. That Paddle Star missing was kind of rough. Keep your eyes on the Jinx, though, because during this fight, the Jinx goes so crazy. Look at this.
It does on the backside of it. It's funny, we see both ADCs on either side, and yeah, it was so close, but there's the double swipe and the execution coming through as it's Dox on one side, and you know, you've got Baby Ghost on the other. Which one's gonna come out on top? We'll see. As Gohan actually goes in for the showstopper on a Sir Kenji. Not necessarily the target you want to go for. Glacier Fisher comes across, hits Asian Knight, but immediately Highlander Gaming back away. This is Soul for Winthrop if they want to take it, and I believe Highlander Gaming don't want to give this one up. They're looking to take the fight over it, but the Dragon's already gone.
No. Yeah, they don't take that fight. That's not a good fight setup. First off, Gohan was already down the ultimate, down the health bar. There's no way they take that one. They're going to wait. They're going to bide their time. Baron buff is going to mean that they're pushing in. They probably live through at least one more Baron buff, given the fact that their Jinx is excruciatingly fed. There is 0% chance. There's 0% chance this is a base race, Mazel. There's no way that's what's happening right now. They have to back right this second.
God, maybe Ghost
Don't
trying to
you
get
dare.
something, but yeah. You've got 3 members strong on the bot side. This is going to be an inhib tower, more than likely an inhib as well. So that's going to be a lot of pressure gained for Winthrop, who have ballooned their lead
Maybe
by just a
Ghost is
little bit less than 3K. Maybe Ghost might be caught out here by hybrids.
He's fine.
He wants to do it, but it is going to be a nice little slow, nice little knock-up. Unstoppable slot comes through.
No.
What were you saying, Rebel?
No.
What was it? I don't remember what you were talking about, because the shutdown goes over to the man himself. Hybrids gets the kill on the ADC of Highlander Gaming.
This is not the first time today we've seen a Scion
Get outta
run down
here,
a
Rebel.
Jinx pick either. I think that happened in game 1 of our first
It did.
series of the day, and that same thing. These ADCs, these poor Jinxes just keep getting run down, not able to burn through the health bar of Scion quite fast enough, and that
This is
might
a
be
snowball.
enough. Yeah, this is really tough. That was a really poor decision to go for that mid-inner tower take from the side of Highlanders. That one misstep might have cost them enough for bottom inhibitor to
They've
flood in
also
enough
got
minions,
top
mid inhibitor
pushing.
to go down. Yeah, they got everything right now. This might just be the kill shot coming in
A
from
little bit
Winthrop.
longer on Baron, too. They could just be going for the Nexus Tower with Rebel. That's one Nexus Tower already gone. Look how strong Doxa is. Here goes the re-engage, though.
Oh, they
The
found
CC chain and Doxa's dead. That's what we were talking about the entire
Jinx.
time, but they do lose
5
Dom
seconds.
Lost Gaming. See if they can get the kills here.
One.
The towers
Jinx
do
up.
fall. The Nexus is bare, but you got the Sleepy Trouble bubble here onto the front line. Let's see Hybrids get showstoppered into the line.
Go on.
That's going to be the face breaker to top it off. Frost Force flashing away. Hot Ruffles goes down to Saskio, who is Goomba
Saskio?
stomping right now. Tries to go for it, but Ghost gets the outplay.
Not going to happen. Ghost was able to come up just in time, and yes, they lost both of their Nexus towers, but at minimum, they're able to keep relevant within this game. They're able to find the 5v5 to stall things out one more time. Winthrop, I appreciate the attempt at that. I 100% would have made the exact same call, given how many of them were low. That tower is on slivers of health at best, if not just like a small breeze away from falling down. And you'll get to see the hold on the second attempt right here, as it's a little slow from Winthrop. Only the Jinx coming back up is what saved this, and I think Asian Knight is the hero here, landing this bubble onto Doxa.
So much damage on the Doxa. Here immediately jumped onto by everybody.
Gohan
Just
too,
goes
man.
down. Yeah, Gohan has been so clutch.
He's so
on this
clutch,
set.
yeah. It's incredible. It's something else. This right here also, this kind of retreat from Saskio and Frost Force, knowing that Jinx was about to come back up. This showstopper to put half of the health bar of Frost Force just completely down immediately means that he has to run away completely, no support. Saskio almost 1v2
Saskio
or like
gets
1v3s
confident
right
right
here.
there.
He really
He's
does.
real confident. He gets
He
those
does.
couple kills. Like, I got resets. I'm going.
I agree, but not able to find it. The Jinx, as I think, does have just slightly more damage. Also, it's Guardian Angel, which is armor, specifically to deny a little bit of the damage from Saskio in exchange for Bloodthirster. So there is something that, like, if you can get some heal cut somewhere in here that Saskio is going to have applied to him, all of a sudden Jinx is just going to win that 1v1 100% of the time because of the damage reduction, not even given the fact that there's a second life to be had from the Jinx as well. As again, Highlanders, they're down 2,500 gold at 37 minutes. These games are too close. Too close, Mazel.
They're so close, and it's all about those little micro positionings in these fights. Both carries, all the carries right now are lethal. You can find advantages. You just have to be careful who gets caught out. Who is the one that costs the fight? See how it goes as Winthrop have moved into the top of the Highlander Gaming jungle. They've got some couches in there, maybe some TVs. They're just hanging out. Just trying to make sure they can get this top inhib down as quickly as possible.
The issue you've got right now still.
Oh, no.
That's
Oh,
the
my
issue.
God.
That's the issue you got.
Doxa. Okay, that's a Doxa diff, baby.
That's a Doxa.
it.
We
That's
finally get to
done.
say it.
There's the Gale Force to
This is
top
tough.
it off. Just get the kill. And now that leaves so much to be sought after by Highlander Game. They want to try to capitalize on the opposite side, but you still have to worry about Domlos, who's going in here as the frontliner, does get the engage, but doesn't matter. Look at Doxa. He's on your back line, and Doxa's doing all the damage right now. You do almost get high.
Jinx is
There's
still
another
alive.
Gale Force. Look at it, though. Maybe Ghost.
Jinx is
Can
still
he
up.
take on the 5 team? This
Can he
would
do
be a
it?
pentakill if he can get it. That's going to be 3. Can he get the 4th?
Come
A couple
on.
more autos.
Come
No! He can't get it. The game is over. Maybe Ghost does not get the penta as Saskia finishes the game. Winthrop with a hell of a game, and Highlander Gaming so close.
Maybe Ghost was so close to getting a penta to save his base, but just cannot do it. It's just a handful of very minor macro mistakes made by Highlanders that cost them so much. Doxa being so far ahead in the side lane makes him impossible to respond to. Honestly, that was about as close as you could expect one of our top teams to get tested here in the round of 16. What an incredible performance from Highlanders. These team fights are impossible to take. Winthrop's got to come back with a new game plan because, man, that was not it. The Chiefs have come together and they agreed that Winthrop's plan's got to change, man.
Yeah, I'm still stunned, honestly, from that early game. The dominance that we got to see from Highlander Gaming. It's unfortunate that they were unable to kind of transition that into the win for themselves, but there were great things across the board. There's going to be things that Winthrop have to deal with in the draft going into the second game especially, but Highlanders so close but so far, just some tweaks needing to be made, especially to, like, I feel like they're play calling, at least to the mid-late game, especially the movement around the map. They were getting kind of pulled around by Winthrop as well.
They desperately need a mid lane that's not going to fall that far behind. Again, if Zoe is on 5 items for that final fight and you can just clear a wave with one single paddle star, I was going to make mention of that at the very end, that Zoe doesn't have the wave clear to match anything that Doxa was bringing.
Yeah.
So even if that solo kill doesn't happen, Doxa just continues to shove in the 2 lanes that have inhibitors down, and all of a sudden your backs are against the wall and they just have the potential to rush down your tower and take the Nexus. But what ended up happening was a fight ended up coming through, a surprisingly equal fight yet again from the side of the Highlanders. But that's the game plan I think Winthrop can play to, and it's something that you have to consider as Highlanders to make sure you don't have that deficit, you don't have that pure side lane advantage for Doxa that can make all of the difference for the last split seconds of the game.
Indeed, indeed. I got to take a little break after that hype game. We got bangers on top of bangers. They're going to keep on rolling. But to hear more about that first game, send it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you so much, Mazel. I don't blame you if you need a break, as that's the second game we've seen today with a Jinx Tristana with both 80 carries getting resets, it going late. Just the craziness of this one. I think that Highlanders, you know, we kind of teased that they came in with a chip on their shoulders, and I want to get straight into the plays that we started seeing out of them because, man, did they come out of the gate swinging, Blaziken. Yep.
We saw in this game really big for Gohan. As we were saying before the game started, the counter picks for him are huge. He came in with the set into the Scion. Great pick for them. We saw in this first play, Saskia getting a bit aggressive for forward, hot ruffles, try to chase him out. And Saskia actually played this initially very well and doesn't take too much damage. But then the teleport in from Gohan top comes in and just uses it really well. Comes in, knocks them both together, and this ultimate for Jinx just gets that early double kill. This is the kind of fighting that we really wanted to see out of Highlanders, and especially from Gohan top, just using the early game power of set and using the teleport advantage from that counter pick to allow them to get these kind of early dives that really kind of made up for the CS differentials and started getting them even to ahead in some of these situations.
Yeah, and it was really nice to see, as you pointed out, that the Highlanders were able to just match Winthrop in terms of plays. You know, it felt like they were falling behind in terms of lane CS, in terms of, you know, tower plates and things like that. But in terms of these skirmishes, you know, Riverside, the Highlanders, they were far ahead in every single fight. I mean, they were up like 8-9 kills in the mid game. They were really stomping Winthrop, and if it wasn't for the fact that Doxa was so far ahead in the mid lane, you know, took all 5 tower plates with that Rift Herald, was up about 40 or 50 CS at the 10-minute mark. If Doxa wasn't so far ahead, then who knows? You know, the Highlanders could have pulled out game 1.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about that mid game. I know we've got another replay prepped, Dylan, of them smashing around the dragon fight, and I love Mega Blaziken. You are hyping up Gohan on the set, and man, what an early performance he had on this champion.
Yeah, I mean, every point in the game, every team fight was basically decided on how well Gohan managed to place his ult onto the back line. This fight in particular, You know, it feels like if the Jinx wants to look for the steal, maybe aim the rocket a little more to the side, but they end up taking the team fight afterwards. I wasn't sure how it would go, but honestly, just such a beautiful play from the Highlanders to find this angle onto Saskio. Gohan is so low, and at this point I think, okay, maybe it's over, but they land the sleep onto Hybrids. And then when Hybrids is standing still, they use that timer to actually line up this beautiful set ult onto Doxa. Doxa disengages it with Flash and the Gale Force, but then those are just picked up by Zoe later on to finish off the kill. So at this point, I'm thinking to myself that the Highlanders got a real shot in this game. Their skirmishing ability is really, really insane.
Yeah, and we saw that grant them an early lead, bridge a bit of the advantage that Doxa was able to pick up in that mid lane matchup as Winthrop. They did knock down an early turret. Doxa definitely a member that they funneled a lot of farm into, one of their big carries, and a new member of TSM Amateur that we'll see in this upcoming split of Proving Grounds. So big things for Doxa in his future. But in the now, he was really one of the people that had to step up for his team. Winthrop, the Eagles, they needed the soar high. He was able to deliver as the game went on, but that still took a while, as I think that the extended fight around the Rift Herald, we've been hyping up, Doxa on the side of Winthrop, but man, Saskio, we said it, he is the two-time collegiate champion, the only player to do it at 2 different roles, and what else does this guy have to do to get in the Collegiate Hall of Fame? I know a couple people were tweeting that out from the Maryville staff where Saskio used to be, and man, did this player with all the experience on his shoulders step up huge in this fight, Mega Boyskin.
Yep, Saskio really going off in the fight around the Rift Herald. Got the resets, and the Buster shot especially was very impressive here. We see the fight starting out, but early on it looked a bit difficult, as we saw Engage. Damn Loss gets caught up right on the side there, not much you can do. But Saskio, he's just positioning well, and as they kind of come back into this one, the attempted engage there from Gohan, but doesn't quite get enough damage down. Saskio playing careful. Damn Loss playing back in, gets a little bit too far forward, does get the return kill. And then Saskio, they're very much on the back half of this fight. Just is able to get in right where he needs to. Doxa tries to go in to gets the kill onto Asian Knight, but then the jump over there, and here we go, the buzzer shot knocks them both into the pit, trapping them in there, lets Hybrids zone out with an addition. Just a flash of a cross, jump back over for Saskio. He just goes off this fight and shows why he's one of the collegiate goats.
Yeah, that is just such a perfectly played fight, but, talking a little bit more about the Highlanders before we go into this next replay, it feels like it bodes well for them going into Game 2 that's how well Winthrop has to play to win these fights. You need Saskio having these insane performances. You need Doxa to be up 100 CS on his laner at 25 minutes. It feels like, if the Highlanders are able to kind of level out their earlier mid-game and step up in these team fights where they've been playing so well, things are going to look really good for them in Game 2.
Yeah, you mentioned those mid-game fights. I want to bring this one back to Mega Blaziken as the Highlanders, they were not done yet.
Yeah, even after that fight, Gohan gets the huge engage here on the slept target. A huge amount of damage under Frost Forest, immediately chunks him down low. And we just see the spacing that Gohan, Hot Ruffles, and Damn Loss are able to create here. Just let them get so much damage out. Doxa gets a huge amount of damage back return, and great culling here. But as they go for the re-engage, Gohan gets in there in the corner, gets in, lands the stun, and just allows Damn Loss to get back in there. And just they create so much space for maybe Ghost that he's able to get a lot of damage off at all these fights just because of how Gohan and Damn Loss are just getting these engages into the backline, keeping them distracted, and just allowing maybe Ghost to get as much damage off as possible while he's landing the big stuns, the big ults, just getting a huge amount of damage and just crowd control off is Go on top in these fights, just utilizing this pick as much as you can. In the end, it was not quite enough, but just in these fights, he just makes the game so close and gets so many kills for them with the way he plays them.
Yeah, and this game was close throughout. It wasn't just a good early game behind, off the back of a Rek'Sai from Damn Loss. It was, honestly, the Highlanders really impressed with their team fighting and the flanks they were able to find. But Winthrop, of course, they ended up coming out in that game. One more fight we have to show you, as this is the fight where they really sort of make their stamp in that CS lead and goal differential on Doxa himself. When the Infinity Edges came in, Dylan, they were able to finally get that advantage to really cash out in this fight.
Yeah, this was the nail in the coffin for the Highlanders. They had a couple of, bright moments, the one at their Nexus especially, where they managed to hold off the game for a few more minutes. But at this point, we're really just seeing how useless the Rek'Sai pick is in later stages of the game. You know, Sir Kenji taking the exhaust, very, very smart when you're going up against Rek'Sai. And if you could just disengage Rek'Sai's initial burst and nullify it with the exhaust, what the heck is Rek'Sai doing in these fights? You know, you dive in onto the back line, and it takes heroics from maybe Ghost to almost pull this team fight back, but in the end, I mean, the gold lead in the mid lane is just so much to overcome. The difference between the utility of these junglers is just so much to overcome. The Rek'Sai is not something I want to see in game 2 unless you're planning on just blowing up the early game and winning your lanes, because if the game gets to 20, 30, 40 minutes and you have a Rek'Sai on your team, it's like a 4.5 v5. And sure, Nidalee's not amazing later on too, but at least she has the heal. She's got a little bit of poke in her kit. Rek'Sai really only offers things when you're ahead, and didn't really work out for the Highlanders this game.
Yeah, I know that we have 30 seconds before we're diving into game 2, but Mega Blaziken, being our Highlanders expert, what kind of changes do you want to see them make going into this one?
Yeah, so I think for this next game, a lot of what they did was really good. I liked the counter pick. I liked the aggressive jungle pick. I just think they need a safer pick for Asian Knight into Doxa. Doxa has showed why he's such an impressive player. So if they can say that he can go closer to even on with Doxa and just allow Gohan and Damelos to do the snowballing they did in this first game, I think it could make a much closer game if the more even pick there.
Highlanders said after their win against GVU, they weren't happy that they were not the favorites going into that matchup, and they definitely play with a chip on their shoulder. We saw that in game 1. Let's see if they can get that going in game 2, and if it's enough to push them over the edge this time. Mazel, Rebel Fox, take us away.